Look closely at the border between India and Bangladesh. Something there exists that simply should not. A tiny piece of India sits inside Bangladesh. Inside that piece sits a piece of Bangladesh. And inside that piece sat a piece of India again. A country inside a country inside a country. For decades, thousands lived trapped in these pockets. No roads, no schools, no police, no escape. Geographers called it the strangest border on Earth. And the story of how it formed is stranger still. The place is called Cooch Behar in northeastern India. Its border with Bangladesh once looked like spilled paint. Find it on the map below the Himalayas, a small district pressed against the flat Bengal plains. From above, the land looks gentle and green. Rice paddies, rivers, and quiet farming village spread for miles. Nothing in the landscape hints at what once happened. No mountains, no canyons, no natural lines dividing anything. The strangeness was entirely invisible from the air. It existed only on paper, in ledgers and old treaties. But for the people living there, it was painfully real. Their lives were shaped by lines they could not see. A fence here, a marker stone there, a forgotten map. Together, they decided whose laws ruled your home. Not one clean line, but nearly 200 fragments, tiny islands of land surrounded by the wrong country. These fragments had a name. They were called enclaves, and they were unlike anywhere else. An enclave is a piece of one country fully inside another. Imagine American soil completely surrounded by Canada. Most countries have a few enclaves at most. Cooch Behar had 198. Some were small villages. Others were single farms or empty fields between them. The smallest enclave was less than an acre, smaller than a football pitch, yet legally foreign territory. And then came the truly bizarre part. Some enclaves contain other enclaves inside them. This is called a counter-enclave, a country, inside a country, inside a country. Only one place on Earth had a counter-enclave, a third level of nesting, unique in the world. It was called Dahala Khagrabari, a small field inside Bangladesh, inside India, inside Bangladesh. 3 borders stacked like impossible Russian dolls. The land was owned by a single Bangladeshi farmer. He tended his field like any other man. He likely had no idea his land was world famous. Geographers traveled across continents just to see it. Cartographers used it as the ultimate textbook example. It appeared in atlases as a tiny curiosity, a footnote that often went unnoticed by casual readers. To understand how this happened, we must travel back centuries, long before India or Bangladesh existed as nations. The region was ruled by 2 local powers, the Maharaja of Cooch Behar and the Mughal governors nearby. These rulers fought small wars over land for generations. Treaties were signed, broken, redrawn, and signed again. When peace finally came, villages stayed loyal to different lords. Each kept its own taxes, loyalty, and identity. One popular legend tells of a chess game. The 2 rulers reportedly wagered villages instead of coins. Historians say the chess story is mostly myth, but the underlying pattern of fragmented land was very real. Land changed hands village by village, not region by region. Loyalty mattered more than geography back then. The resulting map looked like a patchwork quilt, tiny pieces of one kingdom scattered inside the other. For centuries, this caused little real trouble. People moved freely, traded freely, married across the patches. Then came the British Empire, and everything began to change. They drew firmer lines but kept old loyalties intact. The British recorded each fragment carefully on their maps. They preserved the puzzle instead of fixing it. Colonial surveyors charted every acre with precision, but they never consolidated the fragments into one neat district. The priority was tax collection, not tidy borders. So the strange map survived British rule entirely intact. In 1947, the British left South Asia in a hurry. They split the land into India and Pakistan. The eastern half of Pakistan later became Bangladesh in 1971. Suddenly, old village loyalties became hard international borders. Overnight, ordinary farmers found themselves stranded. Their fields were now inside a foreign country. To visit their own nation, they had to cross another, but crossing required visas they could never realistically obtain. The enclaves had no real government services at all. No police, no hospitals, no electricity, no public schools. Children grew up without legal birth certificates. They officially did not exist in any country's records. To reach a market, families had to sneak across. Caught crossing could mean arrest, fines, or worse. Some enclaves were less than a mile from the mainland, yet that mile might as well have been an ocean. People could see their homeland across a single field, but touching it meant breaking international law. Marriages, funerals, harvests, all became logistical nightmares. Daily life required quiet, constant rule-breaking. Estimates suggest around 50,000 people lived this way, stateless in almost every meaningful sense of the word. Imagine being born in a place with no nation, no vote, no passport, no legal identity to claim. No flag flew over your village, no anthem played, no government ever came to count you. You cannot own property legally. You cannot inherit land or open a bank account. You cannot even register your own marriage. Every milestone of life happens outside the law. Some enclaves became refuges for smugglers and criminals. Police from neither country could legally enter them. Disputes were settled by village elders, not courts. A parallel unofficial system quietly governed daily life. Money lenders charged punishing interest in these zones. Without banks, debt was the only way to survive emergencies. Some enclaves became refuges for those fleeing taxes. Others became hideouts for those fleeing arrest warrants. Electricity wires would stop at the enclave edge. Roads would simply end where the border began. Farmers harvested by day and crossed by night. They carried grain hidden under blankets and produce. Some residents bribed border guards to look away. Others timed crossings around shift changes and bad weather. A single illness could become a death sentence. The nearest hospital might lie across a forbidden line. Pregnant women sometimes walked for hours through fields. They sought villages where a midwife might quietly help. Children grew up knowing two simple rules: never speak to strangers and never trust uniformed men. Would you ever live in a place like this, cut off from your own country? Tell me below. It seems impossible that this situation lasted so long, but fixing it required enormous political will. Any solution meant redrawing an international border. Moving the border meant losing or gaining real territory. Both governments feared political backlash from voters. No politician wanted to be seen giving land away. So the enclaves sat frozen in legal limbo for decades. Generations were born, lived, and died inside them. In 1974, the two nations signed an early agreement. It promised to swap the enclaves and end the chaos. But India's parliament refused to ratify the deal. The agreement sat untouched on shelves for 40 years. Meanwhile, the people inside the enclaves kept waiting for a country to finally claim them. Then in 2015, something remarkable finally happened. India and Bangladesh signed a historic land boundary agreement. They simply traded the enclaves with each other. India absorbed Bangladeshi enclaves on its side of the line. Bangladesh absorbed Indian enclaves on its side. The patchwork map was finally smoothed out. Around 17,000 acres changed hands peacefully. No war, no violence, just signatures and paperwork. It was one of the largest peaceful land swaps ever. Two neighbors quietly fixed a problem inherited from history. Diplomats called it a model for the world, a reminder that borders can be solved with patience. The deal cleared paperwork older than most leaders alive. Generations of buried promises were finally honored together. Residents were given a choice for the first time: stay where they lived or move to their original nation. Most chose to stay in the place they knew, their land, their neighbors, their generations of memory. For them, the country changed, but the home stayed. The flag above the school was simply new. Neighbors who once whispered across an invisible line now shared one. The fields they tilled finally belonged to one nation. A small minority chose to relocate across the border. India built resettlement camps to receive them. Just like that, 50,000 people gained a country. They received passports, voter cards, and real identities. For the first time, their children could attend public school. They could see a doctor without sneaking across borders. Electricity was extended into villages that never had power. Roads were paved where none had ever existed. Older residents wept the night the swap took effect. They had waited a lifetime for citizenship. At midnight, flags were raised in tiny villages. Crowds gathered in fields to watch the ceremony unfold. For many, it was the first official event of their lives, the first time a government acknowledged them at all. The strangest border on Earth quietly disappeared. The map became almost ordinary overnight. But the lesson it left behind is powerful. Borders are not natural features of the land. They are decisions made by humans, often centuries ago. Sometimes by treaties, sometimes by chance, sometimes by accident. Most borders follow rivers, mountains, or clean straight lines. Cooch Behar followed the memory of forgotten kings. It reminds us that geography is not just terrain. It is layered with history, politics, and human choices. Every line on a map carries a hidden story. Some are wars, some are rivers, some are old chess games. The Cooch Behar enclaves are gone, but not forgotten. They remain the most extraordinary border puzzle ever recorded. A place where stepping across a field meant changing countries, where one farmer owned land in 3 nations at once. There are still strange borders left in the world, tiny Spanish towns surrounded by France in the Pyrenees. A Belgian and Dutch town where the border runs through cafes, lines painted across living rooms and bakery floors. But none ever reached the complexity of Cooch Behar. Nothing else nested 3 layers deep on Earth. There is Bar, split between Belgium and the Netherlands. Houses change country depending on where the front door faces. There is Libya, a Spanish town locked inside France, reached only by a single neutral road through foreign land. These are curiosities, charming and well-managed. None ever trapped 50,000 people in legal nothingness. It stands as a warning and a wonder about borders drawn without thinking of people. And a wonder because somehow ordinary villagers survived it. They built lives in the cracks between nations. Their story is finally one with a peaceful ending. 2 neighbors solved an impossible puzzle with patience. In a world of contested borders, that matters. It shows lines on maps can be redrawn without bloodshed. Most border disputes today end in violence or stalemate. India and Bangladesh chose a third, quieter path. The enclaves remind us that ordinary people pay the price. When kings draw lines, villagers live the consequences. And sometimes, when leaders finally listen, those consequences end. Maps can be healed if the will exists. They put 50,000 human lives ahead of pride. That decision deserves to be remembered far longer. If you found this story fascinating, leave a comment below. Tell me which border puzzles you most. And subscribe with the bell for more on how the world works. Stranger places still wait to be explained. Because geography is never just about land, it is about the invisible lines we choose to believe in.